Let's talk about committee assignments. So you are an assistant professor and your department is forming committees and you've been invited to join one or maybe asked what your preferences are. And you're joining one as a member. Obviously, you're not going to be chairing any committee at this point. But the question is, which one should you try to get on? And if you are assigned to one, how to think about this work and this committee work beyond the sort of immediate day to day of whatever the committee is trying to do. And the key here of this tutorial is a much, much larger question about your career, which is what kind of career do you want to have? And here I'm not talking about research and teaching, I'm talking about administration. But in a bigger sense, I'm talking about what part of the university or college experience do you care about the most? And you want to be in a position later in your career when you have more standing and maybe chairing committees, which one do you want to influence and make better? Are you a person who is deeply committed to undergraduate education and enhancing that experience? Are you deeply committed to inclusion and equity? Do you find yourself caring more about graduate education and improving the ability of graduate students to navigate alternate academic careers or the job market or research and teaching, and so forth and so on? What I'm getting at here is, at least for myself, when I started, I didn't really think anything about my committee assignments. To me, it was just something that happened to me. I was invited, and of course I said yes to my chair when they suggested which committee I might form part of. And it was only many years later that I realized that some people were using, and really one does want to use, their committee assignments as a way to start building the kind of experience and track record that can go into someone climbing the administrative ladder in particular ways. So let's say you are really concerned with undergraduate education. That's where one of my big passions lies when it comes to at least university administration. I've spent a lot of time in my own teaching building out undergraduate educational initiatives such as Massively Multiplayer Humanities, this archives-based classroom pedagogical initiative whose goal it was and is to scale up the hands-on research experience so that not just small upper division history courses have students going to the archives, going to special collections, but rather that all courses, including large lecture courses, do this. So I am working with this team on the question of how do we get 150 students into special collections, not as a show and tell experiment, but really to replicate the feeling and mode of archival research as experienced by professional historians. So that's just an example of something that's near and dear to my heart, where I want to put my time. And so if I kind of had known myself better as an assistant professor, but more importantly, if I had understood how committee work can actually build towards something, I probably would have asked my chair as a first or second year, could I perhaps be assigned to the undergraduate studies committee for my next committee assignment if there's space, if there's need? The idea being that that's the place where one, at least within the context of a single department, can kind of move the needle and learn the ins and outs of policy surrounding one slice of the college and university experience that is undergraduate education. What is more is that I could have really shown up to that committee and understood the longer term possibilities. I think I was operating under the assumption that a committee is a one-year assignment and then you're reassigned and you do that for a year. And I never really thought of them as being linked in any way. And it was much later when I was chair of the undergraduate studies committee for a number of years when I realized that the assistant professors on the committee who I had, recommended to the chair that maybe they could join, and then they said yes, I often re-invited them back in subsequent years. So I ended up working with the same group of people in my committee for a number of years. And I think, I'm not sure, but I know that at least one of these assistant professors at the time, who has since gone on to tenure review, is deeply committed to undergraduate education and probably will be chairing that committee in the not too distant future. And who knows, may go on to become vice provost of undergraduate education later in their life, meaning there is actually a kind of sequence to committee work if you realize its potential. So just give it some thought. Try to find out the overall portfolio of what committees exist in your department. Just ask your chair if you don't know the answer to that, or your department administrator, what are the committees? How many are there? What are the names of them? And then try to educate yourself on what these different committees do and really ask yourself, where do I think, best guess right now, where do I think I might want to invest my time in making this college, this university a better place? And it stands to reason that you should ask politely, and maybe you won't get what you want, but politely ask, could I perhaps be assigned to that committee next time? Because that's really where my commitments lie and where I want to educate myself and get experience and make a difference. I'll see you in the next tutorial.